What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. Team announcements coming out for round 3 of the Six Nations. We've already done one of these videos for Wales versus Ireland. You go check that one out after this one if you haven't already. This one, though, Calcutta Cup time. England going up against Scotland. One of the games I enjoy the most in the Six Nations every year. Being over here as a Wales supporter, I have no, foot in the race in this game. I just get to watch England and Scotland absolutely smash each other, and I absolutely love it. We're going to go look at the team announcements, some changes coming in, some thoughts on both teams, and, of course, a score prediction for a game that, over the last few years, I think since I've had this channel, I've called this fixture correct every year. But this year, I'm a little bit more on the fence a little bit about it. So let's start out then with the home side. England, who last week got a win against France. Wasn't expecting it. It's the first one I've got wrong of this Six Nations. I thought France were just going to honestly take charge of that game and absolutely dominate. England just refused to die. Even when right up against the wall, France didn't have a great game. So many handling errors, letting them down. But even 50 minutes into that game, I was going, it'll come. They'll just work it out, and then the points will start ticking away. England never gave up and fought back right to the very end. And, of course, at the end of that game, you see Elliot Daly charging over to get a try in it and take that game. It's something that England have done in the last couple of years, even though the performances have been, relatively okay for the majority of the last couple of years. The final scoreboard hasn't been in their favour. The games they are winning are these ones, like you had the Ireland one last year in the Six Nations, where right at the end, they clinched this game out, and they did the same against France last round. And oh man, it's a team you can't really afford to count out. If they can keep that scoreboard close, will they be able to do the same against Scotland? It's going to be a fun video to get into. So starting out in this front row, Ellis Gaines, Luke Cowan-Dickie, and Will Stewart. This is the sort of the go-to. I've just realised they've got Jamie George as a vice captain on the bench, so you can even bring on more vice captains later on. I don't think I've noticed that before. The Scottish forward pack though has been okay. They played Ireland last week, and they've got some big old units in that scrum, and this will be an area to really keep a lot of focus on. Penalties being drawn here. I can see both teams looking for the 3 points on penalties. Any sort of discipline areas where you can just grind a penalty out is absolutely a way to take this game. Lock department, Maro Itoje alongside of Ollie Chessman, that lock department. I do think Scotland have some good locks. The line-out department is an area that is going to be up for contention. I would lean more towards the England line-out, being able to just sort of secure their own ball, but sometimes the throws have been off in this England side as well. Back row, Tom Curry, Ben Earl, and Tom Willis. This was the sort of setup we saw last week with the Curry brothers, man. They're just, Tom Curry had such a good game. It was Finn Smith who got the man of the match last week, and I was like, I think Tom Curry's had one of the best games ever. I thought he had a superb game against France. And, back row going in, Tom Willis with this number 8 shirt. Ben Earl, actually, I think self-identifies like he's an open side flank. That's where he wants to be. England have always kept him in the 8, and I think he's played well out. Tom Willis going in, though, is just another massive ball carrier to have in that attacking line. So looking forward to see that setup once again. Alex Mitchell and Finn Smith going in that halfback partnership. Finn Smith got, like I said, his man of the match last week. And I thought he did okay. I honestly, I felt like a bit mean. I felt like, he wasn't the man of the match for me. I think a couple of the forwards had such a good game. But just orchestrating the game, being able to pick those kicks over the top and just sort of punish that French backs. It weren't quite in it last week. Of course, allowed to get Freeman over for his try, right, with a little kick over the top, just getting past a couple of the French backs. Just, being able to choose those kicks and being able to just position the game is an important skill to have. And Marcus Smith now in that 15 shirt. They're going for the wider utilities in once again at 15. So Finn Smith at 10, going up against Finn Russell. We'll get onto the Scotland team in a second, but looking forward to that battle. Henry Slade and Ollie Lawrence once again in that centre partnership. It's still one of the areas for me where I'm just like I've still never been settled on this. It's still not quite there for me. I think Henry Slade had a better game last week, but Elliot Daly came on, and just the immediate impact. When he got to the end of that game, off the back of a set piece, running a beautiful loop around about 4 different players to just sort of pop up in the middle of nowhere. Stuff like that's what you want to be seeing. I don't think we see enough of that from England in the majority of the game. It's right at the end of these games where suddenly they start pulling out these much better, well-drilled moves, and I'd like to see them more in the game. And in the back 3, Ollie Slidestone comes in alongside Tommy Freeman and Marcus Smith. Now, last week, Scotland lost Darcy Graham, and my understanding is he's still going to be out with his concussion rule. So Ollie Slightdown in that left wing is such a good bolster to this England team. I think he's been performing very, very highly on that left wing. Darcy Graham out for Scotland means you're going to have a bit of a dip on that side. That could be a wing that England might be looking to target over the course of this match. With Marcus Smith also at 15, the way he moves up into that attacking line. Scotland have been enjoying the kicking game, the receiving kicking game, I should probably say more. They've really been enjoying receiving those kicks in the fullback shirt and watching Blair Kinghorn run. I'm not sure if they're going to be quite as involved in wanting to do the kicking tennis battle. And if they're not going to do that, maybe that's where you don't need the likes of like a Freddie Stewart for the high ball and stuff, because Scotland seems to be wanting to do a lot more counter-attack when receiving the kicks. As opposed to just sort of kicking it back to you. So having Marcus Smith at 15, there's someone that you can bring into the attacking line yourselves and looks for his own counter-attacker runs. I think that's actually a better setup as well. So keep with the Smith-Smith combo for England in the 10-15. Replacements, Jimmy George, Finn Baxter and Joe Hayes coming in, who, you know, it is the thing with this England team. I feel like you don't get to see these replacements as much as you do with other teams. They do like to keep on sort of front row players for a little bit longer. You know, we spoke so much about Theo Dan, you know, when Jamie George was the starting hooker, and Theo Dan just never got on the pitch till the final 3 minutes of the game. It doesn't have a lot of impact. You know, you want to see these lads come on. I did see a video during the week actually of it was Finn Baxter doing he was PR in squats and stuff. It's just outrageous weight. So a lot of power in the front rows for you know, a couple of these lads. You know, Finn Baxter, Joe, still, you know, the caps maybe not there with someone like, you know, an Alice Genge or a Jamie George or what have you. But, you know, get them on early, try and make an impact into this game as well. Rest of the placement forwards, and then George Martin, Chandler Cunningham, South, and Ben Curry. They've gone for the 6-2. Probably a good move. Physicality, you know, sort of paid its dividends against Scotland last week from the Ireland perspective. The forwards were having a solid old game. People like Jack Cohn and Cohen are having a big impact as well. So having the 6-2 for you on this, I think is still good. Chandler Cunningham himself, big ball, Carrick on. George Martin's a hard hitter as well. So coming on against some tired players in that second half, I don't think that's a bad move. And then the replacement backs, Harry Randall and Elliot Daly, the super sub who saved the game. Last week, got your wing, your fullback, your centre, just everything in an Elliot Daly. And late minute penalties, you know, it's one I like to mention because I think people forget about Elliot Daly with his long range boot. There's not that many players left. I'm trying to think of who else is still around. Like Reece Hodge has gone now, I think, really for Australia. There's a couple of other ones where you think like, oh, they've sort of fallen off now. The 60-metre kicks that only work 20% of the time, but when they do, it looks very good. And Elliot Daly's one that does have long range. And these games can end up being relatively tight. You go back over the last few years, you know, in 2021, this was a 5-point game. 2019, it was a draw. 2022, it was a 3-point game. 2023, it was a 6-point game. You know, close scores, and sometimes those threes can come all important into this one. Going up then against Scotland, who last week went on to play Ireland. I forgot what the final score was. 32-18. It was a big score for Ireland in that one. It was a game I just saw Ireland winning. They just don't seem to you know, have any sort of fear going into that one. Scotland still got 18 on the board. There were still mistakes from Scotland. Not everything going right for them. They did have a huge blow, of course, the Darcy Graham Finn Russell head collision. That's a big blow to have in a game, to lose two players like that, you know, to each other. And then you've got to try and work out your backs. How are you going to try and organise that? That's not something you're really prepped for that much in, you know, your training sort of stuff. So call them off guard, and it's hard to bounce back from that. But the Calcutta Cup is a game Scotland love, right? You know, I mentioned those scores being close over the last few years. Something that wasn't mentioned is Scotland are winning them. And that's one of the important things. And I think since I've had this channel, this is a game I've called correctly every time since I've had the channel. And even when people have said, I've said, Scotland to win this one, and people say, no, England have got this one at home. They've certainly in with a great chance to take this one. It's always been a Scotland favourability in my head for this one. I just think they step it up, and a couple of these players in the Scotland team really do step up for this fixture. In the front row then, Pierre Schoeman, Dave Cherry, and Xander Fagus, and this has been their sort of go-to setup, right, for the front row. Rory Sutherland actually got in last week against Ireland, right, to start us out, and I do think I prefer Schoeman, mainly for the general around the park carrying of the ball. I haven't looked at the weather to see what we're looking for. Hopefully it's going to be a dry day, so it's not just a scrum fest. If it's a scrum, Rory Sutherland certainly wants it to get in there. I do think Pierre Schoeman's probably the better ball carrier out of the two of them, though. Johnny Gray and Grant Gilchrist once again going in the line-out department. That I'm really looking forward to see that battle this year, because the England line-outs, a couple of throws have been shaky. Scotland, I don't necessarily think have been secure. I'm trying to cast my mind back now to 2 weeks ago, to be fair, from the last one. I can't think off the top of my head how they were looking. But being able to take line-outs, I think, is more punishing to England than it is to Scotland. If you can see an England line-out, they really like working off the set piece. Scotland feel like they can get away with it being a bit more scrappy. If they lose a line-out, they feel like they can adjust to it a little bit quicker. So I'm looking forward to see that battle. Back row, Jamie Ritchie, Rory Dowdge, Jack Dempsey, mixing it up once again. There's been a lot of chopping and changing with this. They've obviously gone back to their sort of technique of they want to work at the breakdown, which I don't think is a bad move. England have people involved in the breakdown that like to jackal, like to get over and get those penalties. Jamie Ritchie and Rory Dowdge working together, two big breakdown workers just to try and nullify that England play. I think is a good move. Matt Fagerson's moved to the bench now because in the first round he was playing the 8, right, and Jack Dempsey was on the bench, and then they did the swap around for the 6-8 combo with them. They've gone back to the Rory Dowdge and Jamie Ritchie. Rory Dowdge is someone that's been playing well and someone I think, again, looking out for in this game, I think could have a big impact. Halfback partnership, Ben White alongside Finn Russell, who I honestly didn't think would get back in for this game. Luckily, they had that week off in order to get through your sort of concussion protocols and stuff. That collision with Darcy Graham, I thought that's both them out for the Six Nations. You know, they'll say, oh, you need 3 or 4 weeks out for the concussion recovery. Finn Russell back in. That's got to be a big, thumbs up for that Scotland medical team to be like, yep, we're thank goodness we can keep going. Because there are people that can play 10. Blair Kinghorn can step in at 10. Tom Jordan can step in at 10 too. But Finn Russell's the guy you sort of want there, just to have those other positions covered as well. So glad to see him back in. That'll be a fun battle between him and Finn Smith as well. Centre partnership, Tom Jordan going in alongside Hugh Jones, who, what a great first round Hugh Jones. Had a little bit quieter last week, but... Tom Jordan in there at the 12. I think this is still the right move. Starting with Dowell still on the bench, but I think this is the better combo at the minute, still with Tui Pelotu out for the Six Nations. In that back three, Duhan van der Merwe, Kyle Rowe comes in for the injured Darcy Graham, and Blair Kinghorn in that fullback shirt. And for your Calcutta Cup matches, the back three for Scotland are the ones to watch, right? Duhan van der Merwe loves this fixture. Don't know what it is about this fixture. Did watch the Six Nations thing on Netflix, and even that one, he was like, I love the Calcutta Cup. This is the one where Duhan van der Merwe steps up. It's certainly someone I can see a lot of people wanting in the fantasy teams because he just seems to find that extra gear for this game. Kyle Rowe coming in for Darcy Graham, isn't the worst thing in the world. Kyle Rowe's still a good player. It's a shame for Darcy Graham to not get into this fixture because that would be exciting to see if the fully stocked back three for me for Scotland. Blair Kinghorn as well has been playing really well. Another one that's been, I think, flying under my radar actually for what he's been doing. Like I said for the England team, the Scottish backs, the counter-attack rather than playing the kick battle game is working for them. And Blair Kinghorn's really moved into that role now, being the guy who collects at the back and charges back at the line and doing that. He's had a number of meters made under his name just from doing that almost exclusively, and it's playing off well for them rather than just giving the possession back. I think the Scottish back three are ones to watch in this game. And then quickly in terms of the replacements, Ewan Ashman, Rory Searle and Will Hurd going in as the replacement front row. Who do I prefer out of this in the England front row? I think I'm slightly favouring the Scottish front row to come on in that second half, which is interesting. I actually thought I'd be saying the England one. I actually think I'm leaning more towards Scotland. Their replacement forwards alongside them, Sam Skinner, Gregor Brown and Matt Fagerson. They've gone for the 6-2 as well. It's all going to be a forwards game. We all want to get involved with the breakdown work. And then their backs, Jimmy Dobby going in alongside of Stafford McDowell, who, yeah, this replacement backs 2 is where I'm probably favouring the England team. I think they've got the better replacements to come on from the backs perspective. And how will they play this game? It's so interesting for they've both gone for the 6-2. They're obviously expecting big physicality. It could be a game though where the forwards just have so engaged that, but actually a lot of the tries come from the backs because the game. I'm expecting 80% of this game to be in the forwards and just absolutely tooth nail fighting it out in the forward pack. But the backs, I think, could be what may end up making this difference. Duhan van der Merwe on that wing going against Tommy Freeman, who's also a big unit. I'm not sure. I think I favoured Duhan van der Merwe on that wing. But then on the other side of the field, Slightholme versus Kyle Rowe. I think I'm preferring Slightholme in that one. Blair Kinghorn versus Marcus Smith in the fullback battle. I think I'm leaning towards Blair Kinghorn actually, just for the backfield coverage. I'm getting into the attacking line, you know, Blair King on side of there. The versatility of the 6-2 on both sides, they both got a similar level. They both play in a fullback that can also play 10. They've both got a centre. The inside centres can also play 10. Henry Slade can fill in at 10. Tom Jordan can play 10. They've got a very similar setup, and it's becoming a very interesting game to see how it's going to go. They've both gone 6-2. They've both loaded up on breakdown players in your back rows. Man, what an exciting contest this one is going to be. Where do we see it going? Where do we see it going? This is the first year, I think, since I've had the channel of doing the Calcutta Cup where I don't have an outright one. Going into this, I had a slight favourability towards England. I actually thought, oh, you know what, England showed in that performance against France that, you know, they're not going to give up. They're not going to just die off. They keep going for the full 80 minutes, and that will pay off in these big fixtures. Scotland didn't get a good performance in necessarily against Ireland last week. The scoreboard certainly went against them. Discipline can cost them. England, with the home advantage as well, want to take into consideration. But these Scotland players do find that extra gear for the Calcutta Cup. I think for the last 4 years or so, I've said Scotland in every time I've seen this fixture. Something's drawing me towards England this year. I think England could be up for taking this Calcutta Cup. I think it's going to be low either way. I think you're looking at a low score. I'm thinking like between 2 and 4 points either way, whichever way you go. I'm going to say England to win this one. But then they did have a lot of things that France just didn't get right. And will Scotland make that many mistakes as France did in that game that allowed England to take that game? I don't know. I've got to say it for the video. I'll go with an England win for the sake of the video by 2. I'm going to go for an England win by 2 for the video. Keep your eye out for your Super Brew predictions, though. That might end up changing. For the video, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm going to stick with, and we'll see how that gets on. I might change my mind later as we get close to the game. I think this is going to be close. This, for me, is probably the game of the weekend that I'm looking forward to the most. Join around in the comment section, guys. Where do you see this one going? What's your score predictions? What do you think of the team announcements? Always enjoy having a read through the comments and what have you. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.